The U.S. President Joe Biden going to follow up some of his recent tough talk about Vladimir Putin and Russia with some action. Biden will be announcing new sanctions, and the details are just breaking this hour. Our senior Washington editor is Lindsay Duncombe. Sanctions, Lindsay, this is over Russian election interference and those major cyber attacks on U.S. government agencies and private companies. What are we learning the U.S. is going to do in retaliation?
The White House just put out a statement, Heather, saying that 10 Russian diplomats will be expelled from the United States and sent home. 6 companies that have attachment or are arranged close to these cyber attacks, according to U.S. intelligence, will also be targeted with these sanctions. And there are also sanctions that prevent the Russian banks from borrowing money on international markets. So the goal here with what the Biden administration is doing is to try to come up with some kind of sanctions that really hurt, because what we've been seeing with Russian sanctions in the past is the international community imposes sanctions, but the Russians adapt, their economy adapts, and the behavior hasn't changed. The significant behavior that is being targeted with these sanctions goes down to, as you mentioned, that cyber attack, huge cyber attack known as the Solar Winds attack, which went after key government agencies, including Treasury, Homeland Security, the Justice Department. The Americans are still trying to go through figuring out what was exposed in that attack and what vulnerabilities may still exist. And then there's also the whole issue of Russian interference in elections. We saw it happen in 2016, again in 2020. So there is a message that the Biden administration is trying to send here that these things will not be tolerated. In the statement from the White House, the Americans say this is being done in conjunction with NATO allies, although we're not expecting sanctions today from many other countries.
The election was back in November, of course. That Russian hack came to light last year as well. Here we are mid-April. Lindsay, why is Biden retaliating now?
Well, this has been something that really has the president trying to walk a fine line, right? To stop the aggression from Russia at the same time as trying to de-escalate and forge a functioning relationship with this unpredictable adversary. You get that sense from the tone right off the top in this White House statement. The statement begins by saying the Biden administration has been clear that the U.S. desires a relationship with Russia that is stable and predictable. We do not think that we need to continue on a negative trajectory. However, we have also been clear publicly and privately that we will defend our national interests and impose costs for the Russian government actions that seek to harm us. He says publicly and privately. Privately likely refers to the phone call that U.S. President Joe Biden had with the Russian President Vladimir Putin earlier this week. And the goal of that call was to de-escalate, but it's understood that these actions were foreshadowed in that call between the two leaders. We are also expecting, hearing from the Kremlin today, that there will be retaliation from Russia. This is all happening in the context of increased Russian aggression against Ukraine on the border. There are thousands of troops that have been positioned along the border with Ukraine. That was something that was a big topic of discussion as the U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken was in Brussels. And certainly it's just these sanctions are the latest back and forth in this geopolitical power struggle as the U.S. tries to navigate this key relationship.
Lindsay, thank you. Our senior Washington editor, Lindsay Duncombe.